You have probably heard people speak about manifestation in a quantity attitude. The more you focus on a desired outcome, the more likely it is to succeed and the faster it is to succeed. But here's what they don't tell you: that is a correlative thing, not a causative thing. What I mean by that is it's not because you are focusing on it so much that you get a result. It is that by focusing on it so much, you finally make it a dominant state, which is what creates the result. The dominant state is the causation. The amount that you focus on it, if it's a high quantity, is simply just a correlation of finally making it a dominant state. But here's what they don't tell you, or what they don't sort of let on in a way that you need to hear it. Dominant state is not quantity based, it's quality based. You have manifested multiple things, even if only small at times, but you have manifested multiple things with a handful of thoughts. Now, one thing that everyone agrees on is that in the realm of manifestation, one thing is as easy to manifest as everything else. So if you can manifest a compliment from a stranger, or an old friend reaching out, or a free drink with just a handful of fleeting thoughts, if one thing's as easy as everything else, you should be able to manifest your SP or money or whatever with the same fleeting thoughts, because that is the causation, dominant state. Dominant is not quantity, it is quality of good state comparative to undesired state. So if, in theory and ideally, you can get the negative low, you could manifest the love of your life with 10 thoughts. Now, I know that may sound ridiculous, but that's because you've been fed that it's all about quantity for so long that you're missing the key part, that it's dominant state. Now, how can we ensure that we get into the dominant state in the most effective way? Relaxation, flow, calmness, utilizing the brainwave lengths when the subconscious mind is more receptive, which is what this video is all about. I have 4 points that I want to talk about: resistance, relaxation, flow state, and how to stop yourself from forcing it so you need a high quantity. Because yes, the quantity focus absolutely works, but not because you need a high quantity, but because by having a high quantity, you finally outwork the negative going on in your mind. Me personally, as someone who is quite lazy in this process, I'd rather just lessen the negative so I don't need a high quantity of positive to manifest. I'll say it again: if one thing is as easy to manifest as anything else in this realm, if you can manifest things with a handful of fleeting thoughts, you can manifest everything else with the same handful of fleeting thoughts. We just need to take away the resistance. We just need to take away the negative state, which is what all of this is doing. And I started off with doing the illustrations first, and then I'll build on them because you guys said that you liked a mixture of both. So let's see if we can do that today. So the first thing that I want to talk about is resistance. One of the reasons why we have such a high quantity of focus, or think we need a high quantity of focus, is because we're having a lot of resistance. This makes sense, and I'll tell you for why. When we are manifesting, we are saying XYZ thing that physically in this reality isn't true, is in fact true. Now, our ego, the human ego, is designed to keep us safe. Mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, any other kind of metric is designed to keep us safe. It uses this 3D reality to say, that thing, stay away from, it's not safe. Bears, for example, hot stoves, for example, groups of teenagers with their hood ups and potentially something dodgy in their pocket, for example. The ego has evidence from the 3D reality that these things are not safe, or typically not safe, so stay away from them. If your human ego is going, this breakup hurt us, don't go near that individual, for example, or don't forget how much it's hurt, to try and keep you away from them, which is why it tries to bring it up. Remember how much it hurts. Here's a reminder of the pain. Stay away. But you're saying, no, I'm with this person. I'm in this relationship. Your internal safety mechanism is going, but that thing's bad. That's what we know it to be bad. Remember all of this bad stuff? And you're going, don't matter, I'm in a relationship with them. Your inner safety mechanism is going off of what you are now claiming is old programming to keep you safe. If the old programming is no longer up to date, it freaks out because it's there to keep you safe, and if it's running on old programming, how can it do that accurately? So this is why we often get resistance, because we're claiming something. I'm in a relationship, I've got this amount of money, all of these things, and the human ego is going, no, you don't. No, you don't. Remember this thing, remember that thing, think of this thing, think of that thing. You're ridiculous to think of that thing. Not because it hates you, not because it doesn't want you to succeed, but because its entire job is to keep you safe from any kind of pain, internal or external, as best as possible. So when you're saying, I have this thing that it thinks you don't, it tries to bring you back to what it knows as familiar, because that's where it thinks safety is. Your ego would prefer an unhappy, consistent, like say, for example, bringing up the breakup constantly, over a potentially happy mystery and unfamiliar. So when you start breaking into these new areas, it freaks out. Its DEFCONs go off and it freaks out. And that's what resistance is, for want of a better term, in sort of as best a simplification as I can make it. But here's a visual for resistance. Resistance is meant to be wind, by the way. I'll have none of you laugh at it. Resistance is like a gust of wind when you're trying to go somewhere. You have three options. You push through anyway. That's the quantity-based manifestation stuff that people typically talk about and do, where they just affirm anyway. You've got to give up. This is what people will say to me a lot in emails. I keep getting resistance. It feels bad when I affirm, so I just don't bother, or I feel like giving up and things like that. Or we can rest and wait. Now take this image here, the gust of wind. Super strong gust of wind, yeah? Like you've got to really push to get to where you want to be against this gust of wind. And you can do that. Some of the more rigorous, mentally like strong, resilient people will just push through anyway, affirm through resistance, affirm through tears, and do all that good stuff. If that works for you and you're getting results, I do still advise you listen to this video and take it on board anyway, because what I'm giving you is what works best for me as a lazy manifester who still gets what he wants. But if that works for you and you like it, crack on, it still will work. Like I said, quantity isn't something that doesn't work. Quantity is just a correlation, not the causation of what works. Giving up, what's the point of giving up? You want this desire, you're going to give up for a day, the ego is going to go, whew, they're back to the familiar, and then you're going to go, but I want it, and you kickstart again anyway. And this is what creates the hot and cold behavior. This is what creates the delays. This is what creates the sucky crap that we don't want. Never give up. Unless you're actually going to give up and genuinely move on from whatever it is, don't even entertain the idea of giving up. I'm going to say this, and I say it with love. I genuinely, it's stupid, all right? It's stupid. I don't want to hear any of you saying that you feel like giving up or that you want to give up unless you're actually going to. Instead, if you're going to say those things, what I want you to say is, my ego is pushing me to give up. And then remember that all it's doing is trying to get you back to familiar. And once you go back to that familiar, you're just going to want it again and kickstart anyway. Never say that you are going to give up or that you want to give up unless you're absolutely going to, because otherwise you just delay it and you make yourself feel worse anyway. If you have to acknowledge the feelings of giving up, remember, your ego is the one pushing you to it, all right? Because it cares for you and it's trying to do what it thinks is best for you. So we've got these options: push through anyway, give up, or rest and wait. So strong gust of wind, tucked just beside this building so that the wind doesn't get you, is a nice little bench. Sit down and rest. Sit down and rest a couple of minutes until the wind dies down, and then you can have a nice peaceful walk again. That is exactly what this is all about. We are just noticing, okay, my ego is flaring up. What can I do about it? Well, I can push through it, maybe, but why not just let it quieten down, let it calm down, and then I can sort of continue to move. And that's what this kind of how to stop forcing will give you the answer on how to do that. I'm just trying to give you some ideas on what these different things are and how they affect you. So you've got resistance, strong gust of wind. The ego is just trying to bring you back to familiar. You have three choices. Which one you take will dictate what happens going forward. As I've always stated, it's not what comes up that matters, it is where you take it. Resistance coming up doesn't mean you failed, doesn't mean you're going to fail, doesn't mean you're a bad manifester. Giving up or letting it win is what will dictate whether or not you succeed or fail. I advise you rest and wait for it to die down and then go forward when there's a clearer path, as I will get onto in point 4. So bear with me for that. Or if you want to see it straight away, there will be timestamps on this video. You can just go and jump to point 4. So we've got push through. Obviously, I said this is that quantity. You got give up. No, not having it. And then you got rest and wait. This is ideal. All right, and we'll get to that. But that's what resistance is. Resistance is you just trying to feed your mind something, and your mind is going, well, everything I see says the opposite to that, which is exactly why Neville, which is exactly why it's even referenced in the Bible, which is exactly why Forrest Scovelson, which is exactly why Dr. Joe Dispenza or anybody else, one of the greats that you would have seen, has said to go somewhere where reality doesn't exist. Visualization at night, meditations, all of this kind of stuff. All those kinds of things. Because when you are looking at the 3D and going, I'm single because of what I'm seeing, but you're going, no, I'm not, no, I'm not, no, I'm not. Of course, there's going to be some discourse. Doesn't mean you can't manifest by any stretch, but of course, there might be some kickback. So that's where we want to remove ourselves from the 3D reality, which I'll get into in point 4. But I wanted to discuss what relaxation in and of itself actually even means, I suppose you could say. So, or like what we're trying to aim for with this idea of relaxation and sort of lessening the negative. Now up here, we've got this idea of like a tightrope. It's meant to be a rope. I've labeled it so that you can see. I don't know if you can see that very well, but you've got like a really taut rope that's super tight, and there's two people on the opposite ends, like just trying to yank it. And then you have a relaxed rope. One thing that I try to explain to people when there's like preparations for the worst, when you're fighting your mind, sometimes even when you're pushing through. I know I said that this is quantity based and this can still work, but it might happen on occasion with this. When you have an opponent, you're fighting your mind, or you are holding on so tightly that it's like you're trying to force things to change, there is an equal and opposite reaction. One of the laws of physics, right? So when you are so clutched or so aggressive with your 3D reality or fighting your mind, you're given an opponent to fight. You will be given the opposite thing trying to yank it as well. So in this moment, when it comes to relaxation, when you're not relaxed and your mind is all wired and fighting itself and doubting and fearing and so on, you create that opponent. You create something in your 3D reality or in your internal state that is going to continue to keep that fight going. In order for you to be in a fight, you have to have an opponent that is fighting you. Otherwise, you're just a dumbass shadow box in your reality, for want of a better term. What we want is a relaxed rope. We don't want it tight so that there's no wiggle room. We don't want it so like aggressive and have that opponent that's not going to let us just shimmy a little bit with this rope. We want a nice relaxed one that we can dictate where it goes, how it's laid out, for want of a better term. Now with this relaxation, there's some things that I want you to consider. I'm just going to wipe this section off here. I'll put it back here, but smaller. Push through. So what I want you to consider when it comes to relaxation, there's obviously a multitude of different ways that you can get into a relaxed state. But what we want to look at is the states themselves. So you've got beta, then alpha, then theta, then delta. And then over here is gamma. Now I will preface, because some of you might be sort of brainwave length experts more than I am. I'm far from an expert. But in beta, hear this out before you comment it if you do know more about brainwave lengths than what I've put here. But hear it out as to why I've put it here like this. So you have high beta, you have mid beta, and then you have low beta. And then that kind of feeds itself into alpha from there. High beta is ego. Mid beta is ego. And then it kind of dissolves the further and further you go. High beta is like super anxious. panic, fight or flight or freeze, basically. This is when your mind thinks that you are genuinely like screwed. That tiger's about to maul your head off. Because remember, it doesn't know the difference between a perceived threat and a real threat. The panic attack or spike that you get from being left on red, to your mind, is the same sort of threat as a tiger actually about to swat your head off, which is why it can feel so devastating, which is why I speak so much on nervous system regulation, because I think it's just a baseline beneath anything that we want to do. But in high beta, you've got ego, super strong. Mid beta, you've got ego. Like he's there, but a little bit quieter. And then low beta, egos, it still exists, but it's like kind of barely. And then you kind of delve, the more relaxed or drowsy and sleepy you get, into alpha. And then the space between sort of like awake but really calm and relaxed to actually asleep is the theta, and then deep sleep is delta. Now, gamma, the reason why I've put it in that sort of subcategory next to alpha for what we're talking about, I understand it probably exists somewhere different in this hierarchy, but because gamma is flow state, that we'll get onto in just a moment. But alpha is that almost sort of subconscious receptivity space, whereas gamma is subconscious action space, if I could be so bold as to say. What I mean by that is, when you're driving and like you just out of nowhere you end up at your destination and you don't remember the drive. That's typically that gamma state. Or when you're like in a really deep study stage, typically in a gamma state. It's led by the subconscious. It's just sort of churning out, and it's very natural. It's very flow statey. Whereas the alpha is a receptive state, calm and drowsy. The subconscious mind is open, ready for some information. Theta even greater, and delta is that kind of deep sleep state. So don't knock gamma. Gamma is still really good, but I think because gamma is more of a flow state, in my opinion, it's a little bit more difficult to use as a subconscious rewiring state than, say, alpha, which is basically just sit on the sofa and shut up for 20 minutes and you'll find yourself naturally falling into that. But what we want to get into is that alpha brainwave state, ideally, or if you've got the time, you're going to go for a nap. Theta, even better, because beta is like trying to put a parcel through a letterbox. Alpha is like blowing a hole through a door in a shotgun and chucking it through. And theta is like actually handing the parcel to the owner of the house and letting them do what they want to do with it. So like kind of the more you get into these states, the easier manifestation becomes. And again, I'll get into how to do this in How to Stop Forcing. But in short, anything that you can do to relax yourself is going to help you fall out of these high and mid betas, which is what we get into in those sort of spiked moments. Mid to low betas are just typical day-to-day activation. Alpha is sort of when you've woken up, just before you're going to sleep, if you sat on the sofa just chilling, or during a sort of light meditation and things like that. Theta between sleep and awake. Delta deep sleep. Gamma when you're in flow state, which I'll get onto in point 3. So that's what I wanted to talk about in terms of relaxation. I'm kind of building the image here, and I probably should have prefaced that, but that's why I've put timestamps so you can't just jump to point 4 when it kind of gives you the answers. But we're building this image here to help you understand why relaxation is ideal. Resistance is kind of, it's not the opposite of relaxation, but you will typically find that where relaxation lives, resistance doesn't. Where resistance is active, relaxation isn't. They're not direct opposites, but they are somewhat direct opposites as well. I'm sure that there are certain nuances where you can probably be relaxed with a little bit of resistance, but for the average person, if you're resistant, you're not relaxed. If you're relaxed, you're not resistant, which is why we're going to use them as counterparts for the purposes of this explanation. But that's relaxation. Now we want to move into flow state. And I'm not going to talk so much about this gamma version of flow state. I want to talk about the universe's version of flow state. We know that the subconscious mind takes the path of least resistance. The universe, while magnificent in creation, while you can't even fathom how incredible our universe is, and how, if we were a few 100 miles closer to the sun, we'd burn. If we were a few hundred miles away from the sun, we'd freeze and such things like that. Everything just seems to be in such perfect order. But even in spite of that, the universe is quite lazy. It's quite lazy in how it works. Or at least maybe not quite lazy, maybe that's the wrong way to look at it, but it tries to do things in the easiest of ways, which I wanted to depict in this little thing here. This is a river with flowing water. This is a naturally carved path, this little curve here. But what will happen, and this is, year 5 geography kind of stuff, with enough time, that water is going to barrel its way through here until eventually it carves a new path. And then it will be less resistant because it will just go straight, completely ignoring that curve altogether. The universe kind of does the same thing. The universe, or the subconscious mind, God, whatever you want to refer to it, your terminology to decide this power. I like to refer to it as universe because I think the universe is so beautiful, and I'm agnostic to the idea of a God. It utilizes the path of least resistance, and the subconscious mind, the God, the power, whatever you want to refer to it, does the same thing. Once impressed with a story, it will take the path of least resistance to get you to that story. So when we're thinking of flow state, this is what we should be looking at more so. Our realities might be set up in a way where we're currently going round this curve with what we're trying to accomplish, and it isn't the ideal route. And when we are trying to micromanage our subconscious mind, when we are trying to force it, when we are trying to bend reality as though it was a metal bar, as opposed to seeing it as a fluid that we can put in a different sized / shaped container, we are removing its capability to take the path of least resistance. What we're doing is we're making it take the path of least resistance that is available to what we are confining it to, which is nothing wrong with the idea of having a specific outcome. Say you want to earn £10,000 in your business, or say you want a relationship with a specific person. There's nothing wrong with the specifics of a desire. It only really becomes a problem when we're micromanaging, when we're checking daily, when we're doing it in steps and forcing each step. Take, for example, just like a little idea, you may think that your specific person has to message you, so you are focusing on receiving a text. Whereas if you just focused on the end of being with your person, your subconscious mind, God, universe, whatever you'd like to call it, could have made you bump into each other, and he asks you out, or she asks you out on a date there and then. And that could have been literally getting you from point A to point B, ignoring the text altogether, just getting to that step, because that would be the path of least resistance. But because you're focusing so much on dictating each individual step, for all you know, you could have walked opposite sides of the street to each other but didn't notice, because your subconscious mind wasn't allowed to make that be the first step. It had to be the text as the first step. And so what could have happened sooner if you had left it to the universe, God, subconscious, whatever. I'm just going to say universe, but know that I'm talking synonymously with all those sorts of things. What could have happened sooner if you had left it to the universe to say, this is my outcome, get me there, because of your micromanaging, because of your checking, because you're doubting, fearing, whatever, doing it in steps, you have forced it to go around this bend, where what it wanted to do was bump you two into each other and have a straight line to the date that led to the reconciliation that led to you getting what you want. You denied the universe its capability to do what it does best, which is create a path of least resistance by dictating micromanaging. So when I say flow state here is like the discussion point, the topic I wanted to talk about, and taking into consideration this idea of like the tightrope, when it comes to this process, what we want to do ideally, and this will go into point 4, is we want to decide the outcome, dictate the direction of this rope, dictate the end of this river, dictate the end of this journey that we're taking when we're going against the wind. But we want to stay as relaxed and open and free as possible. Because being open, in the sense that I'm talking, doesn't mean you're open to outcomes. It means you're open to journey routes. If I was to say to you, look, you may want Derek, but to be honest, open up and just go for anybody general, I could understand why you wouldn't want to hear what I'm trying to say, because that's not telling you can get what you want. I'm telling you can get what you want, and you can get it easier if you just allow the journey to be what it is and keep your focus on that end goal. If you were, say, walking this route, yeah, and every 2 seconds you kept just stopping to check if you were there yet, or you kept taking a right turn to see if you could get a better way of it working or something like that, it's going to take you bloody ages. Whereas if you just walk, oh, bit of wind, let me just calm down, bit of resistance, let me just sit down and chill, some deep breaths, wind's died down, cool, let me just continue walking, and you stay focused on the destination, you'll get there so much quicker than if you took all of these left turns and such things like that, stopping to check if there's a result. But bearing in mind, the resistance is blowing you. So when you stop to check if there's a result, you're probably getting blown back a couple of steps for the purposes of this analogy. Hopefully that's making sense. But an additional point to this path route, if you make the journey as fun as it can be, it's going to be a better journey anyway. Let me give you another example. Let's say you had to walk to your friend's house, which is 10 miles that way. You had to walk, no choice, no other option, no public transport. You had to walk. If you took a nice snack, a nice drink, your earphones, a full charged battery, and it was a super sunny day, that journey is going to be lush. You know, you're going to have a good old time. It might still be a bit of a long walk, but you're going to have a good time. Comparative to if your phone died almost as soon as you left, you've only got a bottle of water that's been in the cupboard for about 4 days, so it's a little bit ugh, and it's raining. The journey's going to suck, right? So this is why I always try to recommend, like, I know you want the outcome. I know you want your person. I want your person for you. I want my things. You want yours. Absolutely. We deserve it. Go for it. But this is why I'm always trying to preface to make the journey fun. So the time between now to getting it goes quicker, because time moves when we're having fun is a statement that we all know. And a watch pot never boils is another statement we all know. But it's just generally going to make your life so much better in that interim between where you are and where you desire to be. And that's where relaxation comes in. That's where flow state comes in. That's where choosing to pause and wait and understanding the alpha is your ideal state and not forcing yourself to push through comes in. But that then leads me very nicely, I think, into point 4, which is how on earth do we bring this into one idea? Let me just get rid of this. I don't know how much I'm going to need, so I'm just going to create some space. How do we actually bring this all together to actually create a journey that makes sense? Well, as I said, the universe takes the path of least resistance. Once impressed with the story, it's going to get you there in the fastest way it can with said story. All right. So what that means is, let's say impression is here in this little line. Let's say that this is the line, this is outcome. We got impression, outcome. Anything between here and here, you can't control because it's already impressed and the subconscious mind is making the path of least resistance. Well, when I say you can't control, what I mean is if you leave it to the subconscious mind to do its thing, it will just do that stuff anyway. If you start getting all stupid and panicking, doubting, fearing, and actually like unearthing your seed, then you could potentially regress this and make this take longer. But let's just say, for argument's sake, the second that you impress your subconscious mind, a bell goes off so you know it's impressed and you just go, cool, you sit back and kick your feet up. This is going to happen in the fastest way it can anyway. Nothing you can do about it. The only thing you could do about it is delay it by being a dumbass with your mind, which hopefully by the time you've impressed it, you won't be doing anyway, so you shouldn't have to worry about that, hopefully. But this section here is the start of your journey. We want this to be fun so it can go quicker, so the days don't feel like a drag, so we're not getting so caught up. We want it to be, oh, don't know why I wrote a B there. We want it to be resistant free. Oh, fee, Jesus Christ, Matthew. Free. We also want to fall into flow state and we want to be relaxed. Now that's a lot of components to try and fit into your journey, right? No. If anything, it means you actually need to do less than what, especially if you've been a quantity-based manifester, less than that. Because fun looks like making the most of your day, having as much fun as you can. Say you bought a ticket to go away. You don't sit there going in a dark room going, okay, today's the 17th, I go away on the 25th. Okay, today's the 18th, I go away on the 25th. Today's the 19th. You don't sit in a dark room just rocking backwards and forwards for the next however many days until your holiday. You go shopping. You tidy up a few things at work. You get pet sitters if need be. You tell everybody about it. You get your fancy outfits. You plan what kind of activity you're going to do. You have a good time sorting things out in between. You're manifesting something amazing, be it money, be it person, be it anything. Have fun. When I was manifesting £10,000 months for my business, this thing right here, which is a cabinet with a built-in fireplace, I can't remember how much it is. I think it was a few £100s, but I wanted one of these because I can't have a fireplace in this house because it doesn't have a chimney. So I wanted one of these, and I went and just started searching before I'd even had any increase in my financial abundance from where I was already at, because I knew it was coming. I knew that by manifesting, I was going to get it. So I found one of these and put it in my basket, knowing it was mine. I had fun searching all the different sizes, measuring up the space in the wall and all that kind of stuff, despite not having the money in my pocket yet, but knowing it was coming because I chose the outcome and I was committed to it. Have fun with it. You're going to have a person, look at the holidays you guys could go on together. Look at the kind of rings you're going to get your fiance and things like that. Or I suppose girlfriend or boyfriend that are going to be then your fiance. Have fun with the actual manifestation side of it, but also your life. If you know you're going away on that trip, for example, or subsequently you know you're getting money or you're getting your person, have fun in between so the time goes quicker. Meet up with friends, get some hobbies, do things that are fun, because that's going to help the time move faster and it's going to help you feel more abundant, which in and of itself creates more abundance in your reality, which means you're helping with this impression. Because we get more of what we are, not what we want. If you are someone who's having fun, you get more things that create fun. You impress the subconscious mind with those things. And if you associate your desire with fun, you're adding fuel for that fire. So for this first component, make the most of your day. Don't sit in a dark room rocking. Don't avoid friends and family just because you want to manifest instead. In fact, make the most of all of these good things. Really enjoy yourself, both from a manifestation perspective of I'm going to have XYZ. Let me look at all the amazing things me and XYZ thing can do or I can get. And in your day-to-day life, outside of your manifestation side of things, make the most of your time. And that will honestly make such a big difference. Then we've got this idea of resistant free. As I mentioned, the ego exists in beta. Typically high and mid is where you may find your biggest issue. We want to get you into alpha. Alpha is just a state of calmness and relaxation. Breath work. And I know I speak about it a lot, but that's because it works. I'm not going to change my story just because it doesn't just because I need new views. I'm going to tell you what it works and I'm going to stick to it. Breathwork is one of the most versatile ways to do it. There are a multitude of different forms of breathwork that you could do. Fire breathing, which is, I suppose it's called fire breath, which isn't breathing fire. It's like a kind of method. The Wim Hof breathing, box breathing. I think it's 748 or 784. I can't remember which order it is. Multitude of different ways you could do breathing, but they all help you become parasympathetically engaged, which is the rest and digest internalized state, and they relax you. So when you feel yourself getting resistant, the rest and wait thing that I spoke about was, okay, I'm feeling a little bit resistant right now. Let me just take 20-30 seconds to do some deep breathing. Once I feel calmer, I can then go back into, I am in a loving relationship with this person. I feel calm. I feel good. I'm more than good enough. I have more than enough money. I earn £10,000 per month, because you've sat and you've waited for the wind to die down. You've regulated yourself enough for your ego to die down, and now you can go back at it again. If you rinse and repeat this process whenever you have resistance or whenever anything negative at all comes up, what you're doing is you're constantly You're constantly dragging yourself away to the from the old story and moving yourself back into the new story. With consistency, this new story will become your new familiar, which means your ego will then use this as your baseline. So whenever you start veering away from the old story, your ego is going to go, shut up, everything's amazing. What are you being stupid for? Because that's what it's going to use as its new familiar. But what many people are doing is they get resistance and they give into it, which just shows the ego, yeah, this old story is true. So whenever the ego freaks out, breathe. EFT tab, calming music, anything that will calm you down. Even splashing your face with cold water works. And then guide your mind back to the new and more favorable thing, or something new and more favorable. Even if it's not related to your manifestation, if it's focused on like a hobby that makes you feel good, that's fine, because that's going to help you feel good, which is going to help you in the long run. And by doing this, especially from the manifestation side, you make the ego then associate familiarity with the new story. And that's when you won't get resistance. That's when a belief settles in perfectly easily. So when something negative, be it resistance, negative thoughts, negative feelings, negative 3D reality comes up, breathe. Breathe. Or EFT tap or whatever calming exercise if you prefer. But breathing is my recommended. On the average day to day, when I'm just kind of going through my day, I do box breathing. When I've got a little bit more time to do it, I'll do a session of the fire breathing thing that I mentioned. And then I'll do a session of like some more deep inhales. So, and at the end of that, I'll hold it. I'll take a deep breath in, hold it as deep as I possibly can without making myself feel any pain from like overfilling on air. And I'll hold it for sort of not so long that it becomes a stress to hold and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna pass out, but like long enough where I just feel like a bit of a reset. And then I'll breathe out with a sigh, and then at the end of the sigh I'll hold again, like no air. I'll just hold it again, not until I feel like my chest is caving and it hurts, but to a point where I feel different, and then I'll just go back to my normal breathing. Works wonders for me, honestly. I recommend giving it a go. But then we have this idea of flow state. What this is it's a combination of the two. You're doing your manifestation work where your routine is. Outside of that, I suppose I'll give you a little bit of an idea. Morning, night, minimums 5 to 10 minutes of work in the morning and night of your end result. Outside of that, live life to the fullest of your ability, which is where this fun side comes in. If anything negative comes up, breathe, calm yourself down, and either focus on the news story or something more positive. Trust that the universe is bringing you your desired outcome. So don't try to manipulate the steps. Don't start checking for results. If you're going to get a result, which you will, your subconscious mind will get you there when it's time to get you there. So don't go checking under every nook and cranny for a result, because you will get the physical reality-based notification when it's happening. So just wait for it to happen and enjoy your life in between. And then relax. Practice keeping yourself relaxed. Anytime you feel like you've kind of gone out of that relaxed state, breathe. Breathe. Just calm down. Breathe. It's all happening, all right? Universe is carving paths. The universe is putting your rope where it needs to be. Can't remember what other one. It's stopping the wind. You just have to trust it. And this is what I recommend. That's how you stop forcing it, ladies and gentlemen, is you choose trust. You choose relaxation. You choose regulation. You choose the parasympathetic nervous system, which is associated with rest and digest, which is only activated during a calm and peaceful state where your body can sort of shut down a little bit. All of that is done by getting yourself out of high and mid beta into alpha and choosing to let the subconscious mind, God, universe, source, vortex, whatever term you want to call it, do its thing. I really hope this has helped. Like I said, 5 to 10 minutes in the morning and night. Live life to the fullest of your ability. When your desire comes to mind again, if it's a good thought, let it play out. If it's a bad thought, regulate. Breath work being my recommendation, but EFT tapping works, cold water on the face works, calming music works, binaural beats work. Whatever is calming for you, use it. Once you feel calm, focus on either something more positive or focus on the end result. Once that's kind of done and you feel good, get back on to living with your life and enjoy the moments in between. If you can do that, you can join me as a lazy manifester who still succeeds. And I have a lot of respect for people that are willing to do a constant amount of work. I saw a video, I didn't watch the whole thing, so I don't know if he did do it, but I'm assuming he did if he posted it. I saw a video the other day titled something like 13 hours of robotic affirming. And from my understanding of the title, he robotically affirmed for 13 hours. Mad respect. I ain't doing that. And I don't need to, because I understand these principles. Not saying he doesn't. He probably has some great videos as well, but I'm just sort of saying that I'm not doing that. I'm not doing hours upon hours upon hours of robotic affirming. I'm doing my 5 to 10 minutes in the morning and night, and a little bit during the day when I feel like it or when it comes to mind, and I'm good. So if you want to get to that point as well, if you want to be lazy with this process and still succeed, remember that it's not quantity, it's quality. And this right here, ladies and gentlemen, is what helps you get there. Now, if you would like to know how to overcome anxiety and overthinking so you can have an easier time getting out of that beta brainwave length, you want an understanding of why you get into it in the first place, some foundational things that you can do, as well as some in the moment techniques that you can do. I do have a full overcoming anxiety and overthinking course, which is available on the courses tab of my website, or it is a free edition as part of the academy. I suppose free edition. It's just part of what you get when you join the academy, along with all my other courses, a full self-concept course, a full manifest your specific person course, a couple of other work in progress courses, all of my products, discounts, email coaching with me as a sign up, and much, much more. So if you want to gain all of that, it's a lifetime option or a monthly option. Go check it out. But for now, drop me a like and a comment on this video. I put a lot of effort into this and I hope that's appreciated and I hope that's seen. So if you could drop me a like to let me know and maybe just a comment to tell me your favorite part or what you'd like to see in the future. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already and be sure to click that bell icon. I have been Matthew today for you and I really hope you've enjoyed and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.